Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia, and this is BP Live. Joining me today, Andrew Erickson, the Undertaker himself, as the two brothers of destruction. He and myself take you through a little Championship Sunday, a little NFL talk, and some coaching hires, how they might possibly influence some win totals in 2025. It's still weird to say 2025, Erickson. I know it's been a couple weeks. I'm still adjusting to it. I hope everyone out there is having a good day. Appreciate you all joining us. And when you join us, remember, you win free stuff, including a signed Jalen Waddle Dolphins jersey. If you want a chance to win the Jalen Waddle jersey free from our friends at pristineauction.com, all you got to do is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on this or any video. That's it. We'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when new videos are up and when you can claim your prize, the Jalen Waddle jersey. All right, Andrew Erickson, I know we got some big games to talk about. Yesterday, we did the look ahead, the hot takes. Today, a little bit more time for you to start to, marinate on some of the numbers. I know you're in there like Zach Galifianakis when he's placing bets there in the Hangover. So any fun numbers pop up for you in the last 24 hours since last we chatted? Because I know you're a numbers guy. And sometimes as you're digging and doing the homework, a number or two pops up that really kind of tickles your fancy, and I'm sure would make everybody else here tickled as well.
In terms of specific numbers to drive the spreads and totals, it was a lot of what I expected for the most part. You look at Eagles playing at home, a lot of their home games go towards the under. They've averaged 41.5 points per game at home this season. And you're obviously having the Commanders come off a massive win in terms of points total scored in Detroit. But what do we know about Detroit? It's where all the games go over. So I think that you're getting a little bit of a carryover effect when you're not considering playing in Philadelphia has been the total opposite of playing in the Ford Field, Coors Field, the NFL. What is the worst baseball park for home runs? What is that? I mentioned Polo Grounds in the past.
San Fran is a bad one,
Yeah.
especially for right-handed power. That certainly has killed a few careers. It's funny. They've made a lot of adjustments. Like Camden Yards has made adjustments multiple times now. Citi Field has been brought in because the owners realized, some of these parks were a little too big, so we started to make some adjustments. Even Detroit made some adjustments too. And what do you know it? They made the playoffs. Isn't that funny? All of a sudden the ball goes out. So they're starting, it's funny when you think about it too. Baseball is the only sport where the field is not the same everywhere. You ever think about that?
Wait,
right?
Say that again. Say it again.
I just blew Andrew Erickson's mind.
No, I'm just trying to, I did not understand.
The dimensions of the field. The NFL field is 100 yards, right? Same thing everywhere you go.
Okay.
Basketball, soccer, everything's the same, right? Except baseball. Could be 405 to center. Could be 425 to center. Who knows? It depends on the ballpark. It's not completely rounded. They all have these different edges. There's a hill in Houston. All these weird, crappy things. And
there's a monster in Fenway.
There's a giant wall in one field. Right? Yeah, you've never thought about this in all your sports stuff, have you?
No, I have not. I mean, I guess. So are there certain regulations to does it have to hit a minimum threshold of certain thing? I mean, we know that at least the bases are all 90 feet apart, right? That's the number, right? It's 90 feet. Or is that wrong?
That is correct. 90
yeah, that's
feet
correct.
Or on the bases.
Yeah,
that's the same everywhere. The mound
the
is the same.
The infield
Once you get out of the infield, bro, it's anybody's guess. It all goes crazy. But it is kind of interesting when you think about it. All right, so let's get in here. Sam Young, by the way, asking a question too. This one made me laugh. I got to bring this up. What's up, fellas? Did AJ Brown kick Hurts' dog? What happened here? I don't know, man. I don't know if he kicked his dog. I don't know if he took a crap in his sandals. Something happened, man. It's not good. But it's funny. Jalen Hurts keeps putting up these 138 spots passing, and they keep winning football games. So why would you do anything different? So that's probably why AJ Brown would want to get the hell out of there. Would be my guess. But let's talk a little bit before we get to the games about some of these coaching hirings that happened. So we have Ben Johnson gets hired away from Detroit to Chicago. So in division, which is also very interesting. Then you've got Aaron Glenn, as I predicted correctly, would be the guy to go to the New York Jets. That just made way too much sense. Nobody wants to work for Woody Johnson. It's very difficult sometimes for some of the certain candidates to get their opportunities. So this was a good marriage of everything coming together. And Aaron Glenn, I think, is a hell of a football coach. He was a great player. History with the Jets all makes sense. Lions have officially now lost two coordinators. We've seen this in the past with San Francisco. We've seen it with the Eagles. Teams that lose the Super Bowl, teams that have these big runs or a lot of success, they lose coordinators. Next year doesn't go very well. Eagles last year are a great example. So how much does this affect Detroit I want to start there with Detroit before we talk about the Bears and the Jets in terms of looking at their realistic expectations. I would imagine that number for Detroit, regardless, is still set somewhere around 12.5 next year. Would you think that's probably a good number for Detroit?
I think it's going to be lower. I think that you're going to get a more market overreaction to that. This is the end of the Lions. Like, this is going to be the gloom and doom. I think it's going to be closer to 11.5 wins. Because like you said, we've seen this before, most recently with the Eagles, where they really fell apart when they lost their two offensive coordinators. They lost Steichen, they lost Jonathan Gannon, both who became head coaches in the exact same scenario you're seeing here with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But when I'm looking at it from that situation, that means you're comparing Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell as equals. And I couldn't think anything different.
Well, one of them's been to a Super Bowl.
That is true.
Dan Campbell. Ain't Dan Campbell.
And one of them is also on the his team's going to mutiny.
Maybe.
At some point.
Maybe. But you know what? He's alive in the NFC Championship game. Dan Campbell is not.
True. That is true.
Just saying. I mean, look, is Sirianni imperfect? Absolutely. But there's some sort of weird productivity in his imperfections. I don't know. Again, whatever the environment is, it is very Philadelphia emblematic, though, right? Where everything is tense, everything is, a little unsettling, and it just seems to work. It's the right city to be like that, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
I also think, too, I think that when they lost both their coordinators, I think it was more of they didn't really have a lot of time to prepare. Dan Campbell's known about this was going to happen, especially with Ben Johnson. Like, he's been well aware. I mean, he almost lost him last year. So he's definitely been, he would not, it would be a
succession plans have been put in place. Is what you're saying.
That I would, I would believe that based on what Dan Campbell's has shown us as a head coach and as a leader of men, as we like to say, that he's been preparing for this. I don't think that, again, I don't want to not give credit to Glenn for what he's done on the defensive side, but I mean, if the defense is just healthy next year, I think that'll be okay for the most part. I think that obviously was a big issue this year with just all their defensive players were injured. So
I grew up in my youth. Glenn was a stalwart player in New York and beloved. Aaron Glenn was a beloved player in the tri-state area by his teammates, by management, everybody. If you watch Hard Knocks, you saw how the players have an affinity to him. I think he's going to be really well liked. And I think as long as they can, again, we don't have the quarterback situation but let's play a little bit of Jets roulette here. Let's say they bring in Justin Fields and reunite him with Garrett Wilson to make him happy, and everyone's really happy all together, and they run the crap out of the football. They reassert the defense, and I gave you a number of 7.5 wins for the Jets next year. What do you think?
I think the Patriots will win more games than the Jets will. So whatever I can get on that. Jets, Patriots head to head, whatever. That's what I would take. I mean, the Patriots, again, we didn't talk about this offensive coordinator hiring because Vrabel got the head coaching gig last week, but they brought in Josh McDaniels. I think that's a great move. He's someone that understands what they need to do. He's had success as an offensive coordinator, even without Tom Brady. He did it with Cam Newton. That offense was kind of fun when Cam Newton was on the Patriots during COVID. It's a really weird year to think that it even happened. And Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. And he did not play better after Josh McDaniels left.
He did not play better after McDaniels. No. I will agree with that. And some guys are just like Norv Turner was like that too. Some guys are just coordinators.
Yes.
They're just not head coaches.
100%. Arthur Smith. He's a much better offensive coordinator than he's a head coach. Like we see this with Dennis Allen, I think is a better
bar. He's not a very good offensive coordinator either, but yes, I see what you're saying there. Here's another one too. Let's talk a little bit about Ben Johnson here. Already mouthy in the press conferences, which I don't like. I think you are setting yourself up for a clip fest of epic proportions. It's your first head coaching job, and it's one thing to be confident, another thing to be arrogant. And I'm telling you, these mouthy little quips that he's got for everybody, I think are going to be, mark my words, clip this segment. They are going to, at some point, come back to haunt him, and they're going to be everywhere when this team wins 5 games again next year. I'm just telling you, when Matt LaFleur kicks the crap out of him, right, for 2 games, they're going to run that clip about him talking crap about Matt LaFleur. So how much of an impact does Johnson have on the Caleb Williams development next year and their win total potentially in 2025?
I think that you're going to probably see an overreaction here where he comes in and it's all fixed, right? Imagine this. I bet you're going to get worse numbers on Caleb Williams in terms of where he's drafted in fantasy, in terms of where their win total is, with Ben Johnson coming in as the offensive or the head coach compared to in a reality where Caleb Williams actually had a really good rookie year and they kept Eberflus and in that different scenario, those numbers would have been better than the ones we're going to get. So yes, I think it's going to be much more projection based and more like leap of faith with Ben Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I think offensively, I'm not going to come here and say, oh, this is bad. I think that this is good. I think mostly everyone's going to agree that this is good for the offense, but is it going to dynamically change like the Bears wins and how they operate? The defense fell apart after Eberflus left, right? So how does the defense fix itself? He's not a defensive guy. So what is he doing on that side of the ball? It can't just be, oh, I'm just worried about the offense. I don't really care about what the defense does. Well, that's half the game. And as a head coach, now you have to delegate. You can't be doing everything. You can't just have your hands and the offensive game plan because that's not your job anymore. Your job is to be the head coach. So, again, I don't want to say like this could be an Adam Gase situation, but like it's like that's like that's the bad range of outcomes is that it's Adam Gase.
I don't think it's gonna be that bad because I think Ben Johnson is far more talent, but you make a good point there. 5 wins for the Bears last year. I don't know how this isn't really a 6.5 win total next year in that division. See, that's the thing I keep going back to is that division I think is far too tough. And that's
again,
my biggest.
I would take the Patriots again to win more games than the Bears. Give me Drake May, Mike Vrabel, and Josh McDaniels. Like this is the trifecta.
And I'm wearing my old school starter today. Where is it? There it is. There it is. The old school starter. This is from 1995. It still fits Joey P. That's right. Take care of yourself.
I was 1 year old.
I'm 1 year old. All right, enough out of you. Let's get to the games here, and let's start talking Washington, Philadelphia right now. Again, 6.5. You're getting in some markets. You're seeing 6.5 at FanDuel. You're seeing 6 at DK, BetMGM, and those markets on BettingPros right now. -6 on the Eagles side, pretty much across the board. You are getting again the 6.5 on FanDuel. So nothing much here in terms of movement in the last 24 hours. Is still hovering around there. I am fascinated to see when we get to the weekend because Matt Peralt and I talked about it yesterday on the live show. If you miss it, you can go back and watch it. Just look in the live column on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. That we both feel like it might get to 7 by the end of the week, in which case both of us then become really intrigued about this one potentially on the Washington side. I'm still on the Washington side. It's forcing me to get away from some of my better nature, which is the team that plays defense and run the football. Those are the teams that get to the Super Bowls, right? And that's what Philly does. I just wonder if the dysfunctionality of the Eagles and the magic of Jaden Daniels, and sometimes we just see this in sports, right? Where somebody just goes on a run. It happens. It happened to Tom Brady. It happened to Patrick Mahomes. It happens to special quarterbacks where they just go on runs and stuff just happens. And the Patriots never should have beaten the Raiders, right? In the snow. It was the tuck rule. All that's like, they had no business being there. Sometimes the magic just happens. And I'm having a hard time getting away from the magic. Have I watched one too many Disney films, Andrew Erickson?
No, I mean, I'm a big Magic fan, big Harry Potter fan. I think it's a lot of fun.
I'm a big Potter guy too.
But to your point, yes, I think that you do find opportunities, especially with these supremely talented athletes when they're just in a totally different element. And you're making the case for Jaden Daniels, where I'm going to make the case for the other guy on the other side of the field, Saquon Barkley. See, like that's kind of how I'm viewing this, where yes, Jaden Daniels is playing the better quarterback, but who's the best offensive player on the field? Why isn't it Saquon Barkley? Who's winning offensive player of the year? Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, not Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels is winning rookie of the year.
That's fine.
Jaden Daniels is the guy that starts with the ball in his hands. And I know what you're going to say, and you're 100% right, because you threw it at my face yesterday, and you were 100% right, which is something that I have said many times all season when betting on teams to run the football against the Washington Commanders, is the Commanders don't do a good job of stopping the run.
They don't.
And you're right. I just have a hard time getting away from Jaden Daniels right now. I just think he is locked into this special zone here. And I'm worried about Jalen Hurts. I'm not worried about Saquon. I'm worried about Nick Sirianni because Nick Sirianni can make some stupid decisions sometimes. I'm worried about Jalen Hurts and his health. I'm worried about his lack of inspiring play here down the stretch, the injuries, all the stuff that's piling up here. It's a lot to be concerned. I look, am I going to be shocked if the Eagles win? Of course not. They're at home. Again, good defensive team, all that stuff. But at the same time, it feels like running away in a 6-point win, winning by a touchdown. I don't know, man. There's one thing I know about Jaden Daniels is fourth quarter be damned. He does not care. That dude just shows out, balls out. Let's talk about the total in this game too. 47.5 on FanDuel. You get 48 right now in some other markets I'm looking at currently. So there's definitely different opportunities here. I know Pinnacle's got it at 48. So I saw somebody ask, I think it was Sam asked in the chat too, was talking about what do you think of maybe an over here because of the way Daniels has played. 47.5 feels like a number that's kind of spot on to me. It's not very tempting. I don't have a strong feeling about it. My strongest feeling is the covering of the Commanders. Where are you at with the total now that you've had a little bit more time to think about it?
So I mentioned this earlier in the show that I like the under. The Eagles' home games have gone under 2-8 towards the under at home this season. Games have averaged 41.5 points per game. I think that you're getting a bit of an overlap from the Commanders game last week when they played the Detroit Lions, who basically had no defense. They scored 45 points. I don't think that's going to happen again. And when you just look at specifically the matchup, when we saw these teams play in Philadelphia earlier this season, well, the game went under the total. And the only time it went over in the game in Philadelphia or the game in Washington, Jalen Hurts didn't play in that game. Jane Daniels threw 5 touchdowns, 3 of which came in the fourth quarter. Like you said, he makes a lot of his touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But I just don't like this matchup for the Commanders, really. Yes, Jaden Daniels, but they have the cornerbacks to neutralize Terry McLaurin. And so that means I think one of the biggest takeaways from this game is we need to get Jaden Daniels more help because you're not going to get it done with Diami Brown, Olamide Zacchaeus, Zach Ertz. Like, yes, those guys have been stepping up, but when the competition is against the number 1 defense in the NFL and not the Lions or Buccaneers, who have been bottom 5 defenses all year long, I think this is where it's going to matter. And you're going to see Daniels relying on guys that, I mean, these guys are 3rd, 4th stringers on most teams.
Eckler had some good moments too.
Yes.
I would not be shocked to see him continue to work. Him being back is a big win for this offense too, because he gives you that little safety blanket on those little screens, those little dump offs too, where if something isn't there, you could check down and you can still get some positive yardage. That was something you saw him utilize a lot in the last 2 weeks, and I think that's a very big positive. I want to talk about AJ Brown for a second. Right now, the number is 60.5, Andrew Erickson, 60.5. Now, he hasn't sniffed this number since week 16 against who? The Washington Commanders, when he had 97 on that mark. So, what do you get the prop here when it comes to AJ Brown on this number?
Yeah, I've been having trouble wrapping my mind around what to do with AJ Brown. At first, beginning of the week, I kind of liked the overs on some of his stuff because you said it's very, very low. But then you look at, okay, well, he's going to be matched up against Marshawn Lattimore. And to your point about the last game they played, well, who was the quarterback for most of that game? It was Kenny Pickett. It wasn't Jalen Hurts. So I believe AJ Brown had like 15 targets in that game because Kenny Pickett was not throwing the ball at anybody else. And he actually had more targets because a lot of his plays were penalties on Marshawn Lattimore for defensive pass interference. So if I'm leaning somewhere with Brown, it's probably with yards and not receptions, just because I don't know if he's actually going to be able to get that. So this goes against one of my predictions I had earlier in the week where I was much higher on AJ Brown, but then as I dove into the research, I didn't like it as much. I would probably take the yards, but I think that the safer bet is to look at someone like Dallas Goedert. Like, he's been on a tear. His receiving yards are way lower. It's like 36.5 yards. And the Commanders haven't been good defending tight ends. You don't have to worry about Lattimore in any way, shape, or form. So Goddard for me, I think is probably a better bet to make. Because again, nobody who has confidence in the passing game for the Eagles. Not a lot of people. And I think that's correct. But to our point where we talked earlier, I don't really think that matters when it comes to covering the spread, because if Saquon Barkley rushes for 200 yards, then, well, they're going to be in good shape.
The other prop that, again, I was very in on last week, and certainly it did hit, was the over on Jalen Hurts rushing yards. He hit 70 last week, so that one was very clear, easy. He has hit this, by the way. This is prop that's this week, 29.5. Every single week since week 9, and the 1 week he didn't, he had 29. So he was under by half a yard, and it was against the Baltimore Ravens, arguably one of the best teams in the league against the run. I'm looking at this number, Erickson, and I know the knee's a little bulky and all that, but at the same time, if we're betting trends, I don't know if there's a better trend right now. And the juice isn't even that much. It's minus 115. It's not soul crushing minus 130 kind of juice here. It's still relatively decent. This is another one where I'm just looking at it and I'm saying, yes, I want to eat this again. Give me all of the Jalen Hurts rushing over yet again every single week.
I think it just comes down to how you feel about the knee. So I know Welsh likes the over on Jalen Hurts rushing too. I'm a little bit more lukewarm on it just because I do have legitimate concerns. We saw him run and not be as mobile after he hurt his knee in last week's game. Now, it wasn't that he stopped running entirely, but if I'm betting overs on our quarterback, I want to make sure his legs are fully functioning in all capacity. So,
and that's the whole thing. If it is a torn meniscus, Pearl and I were talking about that. That is something where, depending on the extent of the tear, that's a month, 4 to 6 weeks kind of an injury. Now, they're going to tape it up. They're going to juice it up. They're going to do all the things that they have to do to it because that's the nature of the beast, and that's what we're doing. But it is still something. I mean, he still hit 70 last week, folks. That's the thing I'm saying. Like, he was hurt in that game.
Well, he got that. I mean, he got 45 on the first touchdown run. So, I mean, he was more than halfway there.
I was going to say more than halfway there, but he still got over it after, without the big run. Is what I'm saying. The 29.5 is a very achievable number there. I want to talk about Bills Chiefs and switch gears here for a moment. Of course, if you want to keep talking about betting, the best place to do it is our Discord. Going to bettingpros.com/chat. Join our exclusive sports betting and Discord community. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers, provide free picks for NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, player props, live betting, you name it. We're betting it over here over on Betting Pros. But now you can also participate in our weekly community picks. Cast your vote. See how your picks stack up against the experts and track your success only at bettingpros.com/chat. Join our Discord today. All right, here we go. Buffalo, you're getting right now +2 is the best number you can find on them over at Caesars. Again, at Pinnacle, -1.5. You're getting -1.5 at FanDuel and other books there too. 47.5, 48. That's kind of the total right now. +111 on the Buffalo side. This is about whether or not you believe that Josh Allen is finally ready in the big spot, in the biggest moment, to achieve getting this team over the hump into the Super Bowl. Betting against the Kansas City Chiefs historically is not very profitable, and I'm just not ready to do it yet. Andrew, you and I talked about it a little yesterday. If you missed that show, you can go back and watch it because this is going to be like a micro version, I feel like, of that conversation where I'm just not ready to start betting against the Chiefs. And dare I say, the Chiefs, the last 3 times I've seen them, seem to be getting better the more I see them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Chiefs side of things. So I think for me, it's just Chiefs money line is the bet I like the most. I don't want to mess around with if they win by 1 point because here, folks, the Chiefs win close games. So it's not out of the range of outcomes that they win and they don't cover. So it's just like, be careful when bet responsibly, even on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I guess in my mind, I view this game as in a scenario where the Chiefs lose, it's because the Bills, it's like a Bills beatdown. Because I don't think that the Bills are going to beat them in a close game. And even in the game they played earlier this year.
Defense to do that. Like, I feel like when you have a beatdown, that means you have a defense that's kicking out. You know what I mean? And I don't think the Bills have that kind of defense. I just don't.
Well, that's why, I mean, that's part of the reason I don't think they're going to win. Like, that's part of it too. But in a scenario where they just establish dominance and they're able to run the football effectively, they use Josh Allen as a battering ram. Their defense flies around. Von Miller's having a game for the ages against some of these questionable tackles for the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, is this likely? No. I mean, there's a reason why the Chiefs are favorites at home. But if the Bills really want to win this game, like, I think they have to be aggressive, which is kind of like my approach with this game is a little bit less on picking sides and more about I like a lot of the Bills passing stuff. When you look at the Bills the last month, they've played all home games except for that week 18 game against the Patriots, which they didn't start any of their starters. So a lot of their numbers are kind of skewed towards the run because they've been able to play a little bit more conservative. They're playing at home. But when you look at the 4 road games before they had this homestand, it was a lot of passing yards for Josh Allen, a lot of overs on his pass attempts. So the last month it's been all run, but before that it was a lot of passing. So I think that a way to get a lot of value with a potential higher scoring game, I like the over in this game, is like the Buffalo Bills team total going over. You know, it's 23.5 points. They've scored 24 in 75, 80% of their games this season. Like, they've scored a lot of points, and you're getting all these receivers for the Bills. Khalil Shakir's 55 yards. Keon Coleman, 20 yards. Like, they're so small because of the rotation and the fact that they've been running the ball so effectively. But it just takes, hey, we're going to adopt the passing game because we know we need to put the pedal to the metal because we don't want this game to go into the fourth quarter and be close because that's advantage Chiefs. Because you got the home field advantage, you got the ref advantage. Like, the Bills don't want to play that game. Like, you need to be up by 2 scores in the fourth quarter to feel good about winning this game. So I think going aggressive on some of this Bills stuff offensively, especially with the passing game, is kind of in a way I like approaching this.
All right, Josh Allen, you're getting under 230.5, over 224.5 on Betting Pros right now. And again, I'm looking on the prop bet cheat sheet. Go to bettingpros.com/props, or if you have the app, or if you don't have the app, download the app and go look at the prop bet cheat sheet because this is where you're going to find all the best numbers here. So you interested in the over in the 224.5 with all that conversation you just laid out there?
On the passing yards for Allen? Was that
Josh Allen? Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
You like that more than the attempts number because you got like the completions number hovering around 20.5 and the attempts at 31.5.
Yeah, I like the over on the yardage just because Josh Allen, again, It goes back to the receptions, receiving yards, probably, or a conversation we always have is like, when it's a good quarterback, like I'm confident that he's going to complete passes, and he has a lot of splash players that guys can make yards after the catch. Someone that I really like a lot in this matchup is Keon Coleman, like the rookie receiver for the Buffalo Bills. Like Joe, to be honest, I'm getting Gabe Davis vibes from Keon Coleman. No, but the Gabe Davis.
I know what you mean. The Gabe Davis games against that's the one he would show up. He would have 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs,
and then we drafted him in round 4 of fantasy the next year, and it was terrible.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. All right, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes here for a second too, because Mahomes' number right now 241.5. How do you feel about that one in terms of what you've seen out of this offense recently, especially since if Travis Kelce is going to let it all hang out here towards the end of his career, and this is a stretch run, is Mahomes Kelce something you're trying to pair together? I'm looking at the Kelce number 270.5 yards for him. So right now the projections have both of these guys going under on the prop bet cheat sheet. They have Travis Kelce at 55.4. They have Patrick Mahomes at 237.1, both unders. But that seems a little incongruous to what we've known between these two teams when they get together.
Yeah, you're not going to get a Kelce projection that says that he's going to go over 70 yards unless you just look at what he's done in the postseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
You basically have to turn the postseason filter on for Travis Kelce, because Joe, he's on a streak of 14 games in the postseason with 70 or more receiving yards. 14. I told Welsh and Worm this stat, and I had them guess, and they're like, "Is it like 6, 7?" It's like, no, it's 14 games in a row that he's been over 70 receiving yards in the playoffs. So. Going back to, I kind of like the game over. So yeah, I think there's going to be passing here. I think that both teams are going to be like, hey, we think we have the best quarterbacks on the planet. Let's let them rip it. Like, why are we relying on Kareem? This isn't let's rely on Kareem Hunt, Pacheco. No, put Mahomes, put the ball in his hand, get it to Kelce. I mean, last week, I think that they had a tougher matchup defensively. I think the Texans defense is much better.
Oh, the Texans pass rush is so much better than what the Buffalo Bills are going to offer. And to that point too, I'd be looking at betting over on Karlaftis 0.5 sacks too, because he's been getting after, especially with Chris Jones getting all the attention on the other side. I think the Buffalo Bills will struggle a little bit there, but I agree with you 1,000% that the Houston Texans defense, an incredible unit, playing out of their mind the last two games
top
here
three
in the
defense.
playoffs. Yeah, and again, probably did not get enough respect. And Will Anderson, man, that guy is just working at a different level. And the way he stepped up his game, it's already great in the playoffs. I mean, that's how you go from star to superstar. Like when you have those kind of moments in playoff games, and Will Anderson was just off the chart. So I like Karlaftis to get a sack in this game too. Don't just forget about, the defense, guys. Go out there, bet the defensive props too. There's a lot of good stuff there and always some good numbers on the defensive side of some of these props too. Everyone gets so obsessed with the offense that they forget about the defense. And Karlaftis is a guy that's been getting after it. He's had some big playoff games as well. And I just think the Spagnuolo defense at the end of the day, that is the matchup to me. It's what they're going to do pass rush wise, how Allen reacts to it. And if he doesn't have wide receivers that can win, right? If he doesn't have a Stephon Diggs who can really separate and be a rock star in big spots, these are the kind of games where it really becomes problematic, because you have an opportunity here to really come after Josh Allen, really put pressure on him. Sure, Josh Allen can get out there in space and go ahead and pick up yardage, but at the same time, it also pushes Josh Allen sometimes into situations where he tries to do too much. And when Josh Allen tries to do too much, that's that bad version of Josh Allen we've seen that isn't the MVP version. I think, was it Kyle Brandt calls him Sugar Rush Josh Allen? I think he's right. That's what happens, where he just tries and he's like, next thing you know, he's like halfway down on one knee almost, and he's chucking the ball up in the air, and next thing you know, it's a pick six. You can't have that stuff happen in Kansas City. But it is going to be a fascinating one. Now, tomorrow we've got the best bets, then we've got the props. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments below. You can win the Jalen Waddle jersey, but stay with us. We've got amazing stuff going on the next couple of days. We've also got live streams leading up to it as well. On Sunday, there's going to be live content here on the channel for Championship Sunday. So we are your destination. Be with us. Hang out with us. It's us against the world over on Betting Pros, and you're on our team. So if you haven't already, subscribe to BP wherever you get your podcast and the YouTube channel, and ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications too. That way you don't miss the live streams or when the shows drop. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.